Hello and welcome to Monday Madness, the show where we try to surprise our opponents with unconventional approaches to Age of Empires 2. This week we're using a unit that rarely sees any play in competitive Age of Empires, namely the Siege Tower. Let's see what the Mad Lads came up with this time. In the first game, we're watching yours truly playing a team game on Arena. This time I was randomed into the Bulgarians, which don't necessarily get a bonus towards this strategy, but I wanted to give it a go anyway. My plan here was to go up to Castle Age as fast as possible and use the free longswordsman upgrade and the cheaper blacksmith techs to really deal damage to my opponent and hopefully catch him off guard as he's booming. My castle time here wasn't all that fantastic, but I do manage to get into my opponent's base and torch some buildings. But since this isn't a well-rehearsed build order by any means, I am lacking some crucial upgrades here like arson and squires, so my men-at-arms aren't as potent as they could be. Either way, I find a fair few villager kills and I even manage to deny a castle and destroy it before he has time to cancel it. But eventually, Red manages to get out enough crossbowmen to fend me off, and his ally also comes in and destroys my siege tower, so bye bye reinforcements. Thinking that Red is probably defended by this point, I shift my focus to try to attack his ally instead. But this brilliant idea doesn't pan out all that well either. I go for a very ambitious TC snipe with fair too few soldiers, and the whole attack and approach kind of feels a bit lackluster. I've invested too much for very little results, and in the end this makes me fall far behind in economy and eventually military. We play on until Imperial Age, but the game is essentially lost already. My build in this game wasn't all that great, but perhaps also men-at-arms are not the strongest units for this strategy. In game number 2, we're trying our luck again, but this time we're playing a 1v1 and we're playing as the Ethiopians versus the Mayans. My approach here will be to go for crossbowmen, which should have a lot more potential, especially Ethiopian ones. The extra resources upon aging up should also help a lot with my build. I'm up to Castle Age slightly after my opponent, but luckily he's opted to go for a boom instead of adding military. So he's completely caught off guard when suddenly there are 10 Ethiopian crossbowmen inside of his base. I'm killing vills left, right and center, I deny a siege workshop and a TC, and this whole economy turns into a big old mess. This is undoubtedly way more effective than the men-at-arms approach. Blue tries his best to defend, and he does a decent job of it I suppose, but the crossbows aren't showing him any mercy. He's just about able to defend against the first wave of crossbowmen as the next wave comes in. And once his TC gets denied again, and I outmicro his very expensively bought siege units, he's had enough and he throws in the towel. Much more effective this time around. But like most strategies we do here on Monday Madness, the pressure is really on you to deal damage before your opponent runs away with the game. Just imagine how big the opponent's lead would have been here had I not killed those 30 villagers. Next up we have Jörleif. Let's see how he tries to use the siege tower. Jörleif is playing Mongols versus Franks and the map is Golden Pit. Jörleif is up much faster to the Castle Age, but sadly his siege tower full of crossbowmen gets spotted. I think Leif believes that the jig is up and he doesn't want to risk losing his army here, so instead he plays it safe, and the game grows into a sort of stalemate where both players allow the other control of parts of the central gold spots. Meanwhile, the siege tower is just chilling there as a reminder of the masterpiece that could have been. But finally the siege tower is brought into light again when Leif hits the Imperial Age. He researches drill and loads up his Ferrari siege tower with 10 arbalists. He then dashes across the map at lightning speed and hops over the enemy walls. And here we can see a rather curious spectating bug where Leif's arbalists become invisible until they start moving. But sadly this is just a spectating bug and not something that we can abuse in game. After killing a few villagers, Leif opens the wall to let his Ferrari inside, and he uses it to cruise around Blue's base, drops off here and there and kills a few villagers. But sadly, Blue isn't having as much fun as Leif is, and he calls the GG. Blue was already behind an eco, and this was essentially just the drop that made the cup spill. Thank you for another excellent contribution, Leif. Okay, so game number 4 is just fucking hilarious. You'll see why soon enough. We're spectating the mastermind Leil, as he's playing as the Spanish versus the Magyars on Arabia. Leil is going fast castle, and his opponent doesn't do a very good job in stopping him. Leil's siege tower rolls up, and he loads it up with villagers? Okay. He then rolls around the outside of the map, careful not to get spotted, and here's where things start to get a bit ridiculous. Leil then hops over the walls and drops a castle right on Red's face. But Red doesn't notice. It doesn't make an attack notification when you hop over the wall, and Leil is building the castle inside the fog of war. Just imagine the shock of the Red player when he hears the attack notification, looks back, and there's a castle inside of his walls, right next to his town center. Shortly after that, the Kongs come out and Leil's dropping another castle. And yeah, shortly after that, the game is essentially over. Red does manage to hold out until the Imperial Age, but not much longer than that. Thank you for yet another masterpiece, Leil. I want to thank you for watching this week's episode of Monday Madness. If you haven't already, feel free to give this video a like, and remember to subscribe not to miss out on future videos. In the description of this video, you will find the links to my social media where I will be posting when the next video is uploaded. Should you like to take part in the next video, you can also join my Discord where I will be posting the next week's strategy. Bye for now and have a nice week.